You're listening to Arteetude, a podcast with artists created and produced by Detlef Schlich, a visual artist and ritual designer, living and loving in West Cork, and best known for his essay about the cause and effect of shamanism, art and digital culture. Working in the field of performance, photography, painting, sound, installations, and film, he will dive and discover with us and a weekly creative guest into the unknown and exciting deep ocean of the creative mind.
This is Detlef Schlich, and today we dive into the unknown and exciting deep ocean of the creative mind with David Seeger. Hi, David.
Hi.
It's great to have you here, I must say. I haven't seen you for how long?
We haven't really been together since March.
Since March. David is... shall we tell the audience your age, so in order that they understand?
I'm 82.
David is 82, and sure, he was quite concerned about all that was going on here. So we were really careful to meet each other, weren't we? But now we have a situation, actually a lovely situation. It's we're sitting outside in front of my house and in the garden. We just had the problem with the farmer next door, I would say. So he was with his tractor and really, really quite loud, and I was really worrying that we could continue with this outside. But he has his break now, and I hope we can get our show done here in the garden in the sunny light. And what is it?
Too bright.
Is it too bright? Shall I take it down?
Yeah.
Okay. Just hang on. It's all of live situation, and
Just take the white paper away.
I have a white paper, and is it better, David? Is it better?
Yeah, and even this. While we're at it, let's... my eyes get dazzled.
Yeah. Do you want my sunglasses?
Yeah, that one.
All right. Cheap sunglasses. It was a ZZ Top song, I think. Wow. You're looking cool. Great. David, yes. Where do we gonna start? I would like to start with your work and with your background from England. When did you start? You used to be an art teacher. Maybe you can tell us a little bit.
The story begins a long time ago. I did teach in an art college, a very well-known fine art department in Leeds, in Yorkshire. I was a student there in 1955 and was co-opted onto the staff more or less at the point when I left. My background before that was that I grew up with a pretty creative family. My dad was musical, textile designer.
Yes.
My grandmother was involved in the arts as a secretary of the local arts club and knew a lot of artists. So I had what was then defined as art, which was mostly very sweet and eloquent landscape paints of the Yorkshire Dales, which is where I started. I went to a grammar school where the principal instrument of art making was the pencil.
Sure. It was different.
So
than
I
nowadays.
left the college, the school, and was luckily accepted in the college on my pencil drawings.
When was it? When
This
was that?
I left school in 1955.
All right.
So my kind of searches began then. Incidentally, on my visiting card, I described myself as a student of everything.
All right.
And
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah.
We
love that.
A description of my attitude to what an art student should be. As a student of everything. There is no boundary. Okay, there are affinities that every person who decides to become an artist. I mean, my definition isn't every single person is an artist.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a sentence of yours
Those
of
who end
voice.
up in art schools are those who have found pleasure in a box of watercolour paints or some sticky dough or glue and tissue paper or something that has
exploring.
evoked response in their peers and teachers and parents that he's artistic.
Yeah.
Just look how clever he is because he's made these wonderful things. And I was very definitely one of those. My dad was a twin, and his twin brother was one of these Dales painters. Unfortunately, when I was 5 years old, he died. So my other dad, he was identical twin to my dad. So I didn't know which was which at the time.
All right. Okay.
So it was inevitable that because I had these so-called artistic tendencies, that I would inherit his footprints and become the family artist. And that was long before I even considered going to art school. I was actually very interested in farming.
Were you? Yeah, I see that.
I spent a lot of time at the local farm as a very small child.
David brought me a lot of vegetables this morning as he came over here. Was it beetroot and beans?
Beetroot and purple podded beans that turn green when you cook them.
I should make a couple of photos for you.
And a nice big courgette. So, and the tops of the beetroot are just as good as spinach and just as nutritious and tasty.
So, absolutely. So you've got definitely the green thumb, you know.
It's a nice little idea, but I did a counselling course at one of my loops into the unknown to understand my creative process a little better.
Yeah.
And one of the games that we were offered on that course was that you sit down and make a list of all the things you are, you know, which is like male, father, husband, idiot, whatever. You put everything down that you're good at. Rock climbing, Aikido, practitioner, etc.
You start early.
So you've got a list, maybe 2 pages long,
Yeah.
And you start crossing them off. If you had to give one up, which would you give up? Gradually, you come down to one. And unbelievably, and it shocked me that the one I was left with was gardener.
Was it?
It wasn't artist.
But you're still gonna do that.
And I do it. I can't keep my hands out of the earth.
And your garden's great, isn't it? I mean,
well, it's just nature. You're close to the earth. I'm a what you might call a sensation type in the classification that Carl Jung put on us. You know, the sensation, the thinker, the intuitive, the feeler.
Yeah.
I was born as a Libran, so I'm actually an air sign, but I tilted my prime function towards sensation because I had a serious blockage to my thinking process.
I think every artist can sing a song about that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Somehow, I mean.
Well, anyway, I am the other issue in my astrology is I have what is called a grand trine in Earth. I've actually 4 planets in triangulation.
like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show.
They all set each other off, and they're all Earth planets. So 3 Earth have a grand trine in Earth. So that actually, I resonate very much. The other issue in my astrology is I'm a Gemini, so I've got 2 centres. So I've most certainly got the sensation centre well developed.
Yeah,
and
but that makes life not easier, isn't it?
Yeah, and then in my 40s I ended up going on an MA course to learn to think and write. It took me a whole summer to write my diagnostic essay, the very first essay I'd written since I left school, which actually got me into the course. And I came out of it.
Yeah.
Well, the course was a year, but 3 years later I ended up with a 25,000-word essay on Marc Chagall. So
all right.
I did quite a lot of distillation in that direction.
So we can say 25,000 words are around 100 pages, 120 pages, isn't it?
It's a good, yes, that's pretty well it. And
smaller.
It was a useful and exploratory study into the creativity of Marc Chagall.
Yeah.
And I used a bit more Jung of his ideas about,
as methodology
dreams to consider his paintings of dreams and ask Chagall himself and those who've written about him in his biographies how they could be interpreted according to his life. And things came out of that weren't in the official biography. I discovered all sorts of things, but that's another story.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, it's really great what you discover if you start to write about a subject, and if you keep this discipline somehow, that you stick to the things.
Well, it meant I read every book that had been written about Chagall. I'd actually seen the final exhibition that he had at the Royal Academy in London. I visited it 3 times. That was the only input I got from the actual work, but there's an amazing book by, what's it called? His main biographer, I will remember it.
If you remember it, I'm gonna put that into my link, the podcast link. We will come to it later. So I write it down, guys, and if you're interested in it, you can.
Well, it's another story, and it's a very good story because, but we're not here to talk about that.
No, but I think we might catch up again sometimes, and I'm sure we will find a lot of other stories to talk about and to keep the audience informed somehow and entertained, because that's the thing. I love it. This is now my second blog, and it's great. You really you can shout out your stories into the world, and everyone can listen to it.
Well, this is the point, isn't it? That we live in a universe. We're all unique and different. And in the end, we write our story of what the universe is and who we are in it. The universe only exists in our experience of it, and the story we can tell about it. We read other people's stories for a shorthand of the tests of whether what we are thinking and whatever is on the right line. So every story that we tell is a question.
Absolutely, and that will never end. I mean,
indeed.
Every time we find an answer to a question, a new question appears as well. So,
but you can actually say that a scientific theory is a story. It's a story of that particular exploration into that particular item or occurrence or event that gives some insight as to how wrong it has been before you did how wrong the theory is before you did the experiment, and you come out a little bit kind of closer to the real.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's still a journey, isn't it? I mean, stories are actually a good story is always a journey. I mean, there are some couple of good books. The Journey of the Hero. I mean, Young was quite inspired from this idea as well with his archetypes, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he loved it. He loved his archetypes. Yeah, his archetypes. Yeah, great. David, so how long have you been a teacher in England?
Well, I was teaching 24 years.
In the same university.
It was a conventional art school, which was set up in the 19th century. There was a series of art schools.
What was the name of the school?
Leeds College of Art, the college that Henry Moore went to, and Barbara Hepworth, and quite a few
you met a couple of
pop
people
stars.
there. Yeah, what was that? So you told me that you became friends with I forgot the name.
David Hockney was at school with me.
Yeah.
So we're not friends. I'm on a very
was it a competition?
Remote encounter with him.
What is the competition between you
but
and
I'm
David?
very close to his work. I listen to, and at the minute there is a series of 80 outtakes of a film that was made about him that are actually currently on Facebook that is worth looking up by Kaluga Pictures.
I might put this link underneath.
It's extraordinary, and there is a real beauty in the what shall we say? The generosity of Hockney to share his insights and his encounters. He is the modern day witch doctor who dreams for the community. Everybody loves his work.
Yeah.
It was one of the most. His last exhibition at the Royal Academy was definitely one of the most popular exhibitions ever. He speaks to ordinary people because he looks for them, and he makes his version of what he sees, and he talks about how to see, and how beautiful it is just to sit down on the side of a road with a canvas and paint what you see.
So did he inspire you?
Well, we inspire each other. The interesting thing is he went down a traditional track. He went to Bradford Art School, which was based on early 19th century painting tradition of people like Ruskin Spear and Whistler and post-impressionism and so on, and ended there. Now, I was about to say, at the end of my first term, we got a new head of department who introduced a course based on the Bauhaus series, which was essentially looking at far deeper kind of analysis of what the ingredients
Oscar
of art
Schlemmer's
are.
dance. Did you?
Well, the first exercise is differentiating between a point and a line.
Yeah.
A point is one or no dimensional. A line is stretching the shortest distance between 2 points.
Yeah.
You can write that down by making a ruled line between 2 points. You then expand it to an area and a surface, which is the basis of cubism, which is the background up or the tabletop on which things are put, this side of the optical surface.
Dear listeners, so you hear David inhaled. He digested his art theory, don't you?
Well, that was the beauty of that first year in the art school, because we were introduced to modern art. In those days, art was in books by Thames and Hudson, which had 2 colour plates, the rest of the picture in black and white. There was a book called Impressionism, and the world of Impressionism,
Yeah.
something like that. A big,
We're going to find it, and I got to put the links.
But anyway, that book, I mean, we know what Impressionism is. It's the scatter and the mix of all the colours in your eye, as well as, they're differentiated in raw pigment on the canvas, but you mix them into this beautiful fog that Turner had to go at dealing with. Monet did these pictures of the Thames fog in the morning with the
fog.
tugboats.
I saw the frog because I just had my interview with Shirkantara and her lockdown frog. I said,
it didn't.
Okay. David.
Yeah.
I thank you very much. I would say this was very informative, and we leave it for this part now. And I hope, guys, you all like it and you tune into the next show. Bye!
Bye-bye.
This is a listener-supported show. If you like what you hear, be sure to tune in Friday for the second part of this weekly audio triptych. I feel honored if you subscribe this show. You can follow me non-financial with the following click on one of my Instagram accounts, or subscribe the visual version of this podcast on YouTube via the link below. If you want to leave a donation for a coffee or a bus ticket, just follow the donation link via the Arteetude Podcast account. Eventually, I would like to thank, through this medium, all my members and listeners of the I Love West Cork Artists Network from all over the world. Just to remember myself that without you, this here couldn't and wouldn't happen.
You have listened to Arteetude, West Cork's first art, fashion and design podcast. Arteetude, never so close again. That was too close.